Hey everyone, welcome to the channel. In this video, we will dive into native queries. We will cover what native queries are, when you would use them, and how to implement them in Spring Data JPA. Especially, we will look at select, update native queries, and how to paginate your results using native queries. So, what exactly is a native query? Well, it's basically a regular SQL statement that's designed to work with a specific database. For example, MySQL. Unlike JPQL, which is a more general purpose query language used by Spring Data JPA, native queries give you direct control over the database and let you use all its specific features. So, when should you use a native query? Sometimes you will run into a situation where JPQL just can't do what you need. If your query is really complicated or if you need to use special database features, then a native query is the way to go. Let's get started by building a new Spring Boot project from scratch. We will use Spring Initializer to quickly set up the project with the essentials. First, head over to this start.spring.io. Here I am going to use Maven project, and for the Spring Boot version, the latest Spring Boot version at the time of this recording is 3.3.2. Then the group ID, let's give it a name, learn with Iftikhar. Then artifact, native query, and the description, demo Spring Boot project and native query example. So the packaging is jar and the Java. I'm going to use Java version 17. Java version 17 is the minimum required version of Spring Boot version 3. You can use version 21 or 22 if you want to. Now it's time to add dependency. Click on this dependency button, or alternatively you can click Command plus B if you are using Mac or Control plus B if you are using Windows. So let's add the dependencies. The first dependency we will need is Spring Data JPA. Then I will need MySQL because I am going to use MySQL as my database. And that's all I need for this project. So click this button to generate. This will generate the project and download in your machine. Then import it in your favorite IDE. My project is downloaded. I'm going to import it in my IDE. I have imported the project in my IDE. I am using IntelliJ IDE Ultimate version. If you are using Spring Tool Suite, NetBeans or any other, you can go with that. Now let's check some of the important file of this project. In this left sidebar, the project is showing. The first file I am going to show you is that pom.xml. POMS stands for Project Object Model. In this model, necessary dependencies and other information is defined. Here is the group ID we have provided, the artifact ID and other information. The Java we have selected is mentioned here, and there is the dependencies. Dependency for Spring Data JPA and MySQL connector. Now let me show you what is in my database. I am using MySQL database for this project. Let's check what is in my database. We can access this database right from the IDE. In my IntelliJ IDE Ultimate version comes with a handy database tools. Just click on this database icon on the right sidebar. Here is my database, Spring Native Query. Let's check the table. It has only one table, that is book. Let's check the data in this table. It has some of the data of the book. This book has ID, author, genre, price and title. Now let's create entity matching this database table. Let's close this. Here in this project, src, main, inside main, then Java. Inside this root package, create a new Java class. I'm going to make a simple POJO which will be used as entity. Let's make it book. Let's close the sidebar. Our book has ID. So private, long, ID. Then the book have title, string, title. The book also have author, private, string author, private, string, genre, and finally the price. Now it's time to create the constructor. So generate constructor, select all. Actually, I don't need to select this ID because this will be generated automatically by MySQL. So select other fields and OK. Then I need to create another no args constructor. So constructor, select none. So our no args constructor is generated. Now it's time to create setter and getter. Generate getter and setter, select all and OK. And finally, we need to create toString. So generate toString, select all and OK. So our book class is ready. Actually move this toString at the end of this class. So this is our normal Pojo class. Let's make it entity. So to do this, at the top of the class, we need to provide an annotation at entity. And obviously we need to map it with a book table. So table name is book. Now I need to provide which field will act as ID. This is in our case, this is this ID field. So provide an annotation ID. Then provide how the value is generated. So at generated value, this is the strategy is generation type identity. And that's all. Spring is intelligent enough to map this field name of the class with the column of the database automatically. But if you want, we can exclusively mention the name of the column. Let's do this here. Add column. Name is ID. For the title, column name is title. For author, it is column name author. Genre, column name is genre. And finally price, name is price. So that's all for the entity. Now it's time to create a repository. So opening a sidebar, here in this root package, creating a new class. It will be type of interface and name it book repository. Collapse the sidebar. It extends from JPA repository, and here we need to mention for which model the repository will work. In our case, this is book, and the data type of the primary key is long. So we have completed creating our books repository and the book class. Now let's configure our Spring Boot to connect with the database. Closing these classes from the sidebar, main, resources, application.properties. Here we need to provide the necessary configuration for connecting with the database. I'm going with bare minimum. So let's connect with the database. I don't need this line. So first we need to provide the database URL, spring.datasource.url. The URL for MySQL database is jdbc://localhost 3306, then JPA native query. Then need to provide the username of the database, Spring data source username. For my database, it is root. Then provide a password, Spring data source dot password. This is my database password. And now it's time to provide the driver class name, Spring data source driver class name. It is com.mysql.cj.jdbc.driver. Also, we need to provide the targeted database. So spring.jpa.database. I'm using MySQL database. And the final property that I will need, that is Spring JPA hibernate DDL auto, and I'm going to select none. If you are confused about all of these, this entity, repository, and this configuration, check out my other video where I have explained all of these in details. So that's all. We need to connect with the database. Now let's check if we can get the data. So opening our main class, native jQuery application. Let's use command line runner to test the application. Implements, command line runner. I need to implement a method. Let's implement it. So this is run. Implement this. So here I need to inject my repository. So private final book repository, name it repository. I create a constructor injection, constructor, select a repository, and done. And here let's query the database and check the book's result. So we can do this using repository dot find all. After querying all the data, let's iterate through the book. So for each, here pass book arrow function. So system dot out dot print line book to string. Let's run this and check what happens. Okay, semicolon is expected. Provide a semicolon and run the project again. Our project is started. There is some error. Let's check what is the problem. JPA native query book does not exist. Let's check in the database. Okay, the name of the table is books, not book, the plural one. So opening my book class, here need to change the table name to books. Close it and run the project again. So here we are getting all the books from the database. So we are successfully connected with the database and the project is running successfully. Now let's focus on writing the native queries. Suppose we want to find a book where a specific word exists in its title. Let's create a method for that. List book. I need to import the list. Then name of the method is find books by title that contains word string. It accepts title. Now here let's write our native query. So using query annotation, the value is select everything from books B where I want it to be case insensitive. So lower the title that we are getting from the database. So b dot title like, then the %, then title %. And also we need to mention that this is our native query. So native query is equal to true. Here this title will be replaced by the title we provide here. So we need to provide another annotation inside this method. So param and the value is title. This should be the same as this title. Now let's use this method and query the database and check if we are getting the proper results. So in our main class, inside this run method, let's move this, let's delete this. Here run repository dot find all books by title contains word. Here let's say if our book contains the word men, iterate the result and print the result. So book arrow function and print the book to string, provide a semicolon and check what we are getting. Run this project. Here you can check we are getting all the result that contains men in their title. This is men. Here another, let's check where is there, men. So we are getting the proper result from the database. That's how we create a query, create a native query in Spring Data JPA project. Let me show you another example for a complex query. Now let's write a more complex query. I am going to create a native query for searching the database. I will check if the book title, author or genre have a specific word. So this is the perfect example of where we need a native query. So let's create a method. I would like to get a paginated result. So page, type is book and name is search and provide the keyword. So string keyword and here provide the query. The value is select everything from books, where I'm going to use match function. Says match. I would like to match the title, author and genre against my keyword. And this is native query, so we need to tell native query to true. Now let's check this search method. So in my native application.java class, here let's call this search method to get the result. Repository.search and provide the keyword for which I want the result. Let's say the keyword is tell and iterate through the result and provide lambda function book sysout book.toString. Okay, provide a semicolon and run it here. Okay, there is an error. Paging query needs to have a pageable parameter. Question, let's check this one. Here beside this keyword, as the return type is page, I need to provide the pageable object. So what is the pageable? Using pageable, we can define the page number and the number of result we want to see in each page. For example, we want to see the 5 results or 10 results and we are in the first page, or we are in the second page and we want to see the next 10 results. We can define that using the pageable. So let's define our pageable variable here. Pageable object, pageable, name it pageable equals, it will be page request of this accepts 2 parameters. Okay, let's check what the parameters are. Accepts the page number and the result size. Say this is the page number 0. This is 0 base. 0 means first page and we want to see 10 results. And here showing error. Let's say what is the problem. Okay, we have imported the wrong class. It will be org.springframework.data.domain.pageRequest. Not page request, it will be pageable. With that, the error is gone, and here we need to pass the pageable. Okay, here in my struct method, we need to pass the pageable as my second parameter. Now let's run the project. Here, okay, all the result is messed up. Let's comment out this one, and we want to see only this result. So run the project. Here you can see all the results where this tell word is in the title or author name or in genre. Let's check one. For this, you can see the tail is in genre. And for the next result, let's find out where the tail is. This one is the tail genre. Again, fairy tale. So we are getting the result where this word is present in genre or title or in the author's name. Now I have shown you how to write this select query, this native select query. Now let me show you how to write the native query for update operations. Okay, to do this, I am creating another method. The return type will be void, and the name of the method is update book. Let's say we want to update the price of the book. So update book price, and provide the first parameter, provide the price. So provide the double price and the ID of the book for which we want to update the price. So long ID, and provide the semicolon. And here write the native query. Query value is update books set price equals set the parameter price, where ID equals set ID parameter, and native query is true. And here we need to provide the param notation to define the parameters. So it is for price, and the next one is for ID. Now let's call this method to update our book's price. So in this native query class, after this search, let's write our code for updating the books. So repository dot update book price. First we need to provide the price. Let's see in our database some of the price of the book. Our books, view the data. Let's say we want to update the price of this book, which ID is 1, from $39.76 to $50. Let's do this. Price is 50 and the ID of the book is 1. And also query this book and check if the price is updated. Repository, find by ID. If present, print the book. Okay, let's comment out this previous section and run the project. Here is another exception. That is because JDBC exceptions executing SQL. That is because here where we have defined our update query in our book repository, we need to provide another annotation, that is modifying. To know more about this annotation, I would like to recommend you to watch my another video on Spring Data JPA. And also, besides this modifying, I also need another annotation, that is transactional. That is from Jakarta.transaction. With that, we should be good to go. Let's run this project again. And this time it's successfully updated, and here the result. This result is from this line of code. Let's check it in our database. So let's refresh it. Here you can see the price is updated to $50 for the ID of 1. Book ID is 1. So that's what I have for this tutorial. Hopefully you have understand it. If you want to know more about any topic regarding Spring Boot or Java, feel free to comment. I will be back another tutorial next. Till then, bye bye.